Alright guys, hello, hope you're all doing well. We are back with Night of the Twisters again, and we're going to start with the 9 o'clock hour first. Let's look back on the 8 o'clock hour and just kind of do a quick review. This is when things kind of started picking up in the action department, so we're feeling a little bit more angst about what's going on. So we start with Arthur and Dan are wanting to watch TV, and Mom is working on Grandma Hatch's dress for her birthday, okay? And the boys are trying to decide what they're going to watch, okay? And Mom is talking about the skirt that she's making for Grandma Hatch, and okay, do you think she's gonna want it gathered or pleated? And so she decides to try to call him. Well, nobody picks up at the other end, and that kind of concerns her. And then they start hearing on the TV that Dan and Arthur just turned on that there is a severe weather announcement. And so their ears kind of perk up and everybody kind of starts to get just a little bit worried. It's saying, you know, to take precautions. And then, you know, Dan is like, oh, does this mean we have to go in the basement? Okay, that's like the worst thing. You'd have to go in the basement during a tornado warning. You know, so not yet. Not too concerned just quite yet. And then, you know, Mom, she looks out the window and it's dark out, can't see anything. Dan is still concerned that they're gonna have to go in the basement. Then TV is still saying, you know, watch out, be careful, take precautions. And then Dan's mom starts worrying about Mrs. Smiley, and she's concerned about her and her hearing aid, that she's not gonna be able to hear the warnings or if the sirens go off, the sirens. So Mom decides that she's gonna grab her, you know, her rain jacket and head over to check on Mrs. Smiley. Before she walks out, she tells Dan and Arthur, if the sirens go off, this is what you need to do. If the sirens go off, you need to take the flashlight, you need to get your brother from upstairs and get downstairs into the basement. That's what you need to do. Don't forget, that's everything you need to do. Well, about the time Mom walks out the door, she ain't been out long, sirens go off. Boys think it's a little weird, not sure what's going on, and then they stop. And then they start again. And the second time they start again, they go upstairs towards Ryan's room to grab him. They go off again, they go back downstairs. And then they see on the TV, it's flashing CD, 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 and that's this civil defense emergency. Lights are flickering, and Dan has just about made it upstairs this time to get Ryan for real. And the lights are gone for good. So things are getting pretty serious, all right? So let's start with the 9 o'clock hour. So it says the last sentence of the 8 o'clock hour said, the lights went out for good just before I reached Ryan's room. 9 o'clock. I smashed face first into Ryan's butterfly mobile that was hanging up over his crib, a little mobile that helps him go to sleep. That was the only way that I knew that I was at the crib. I felt for him, got my hands under his nightshirt and diaper, rolled him over, lifted him up, but we didn't get very far. He was caught in this mobile, his arm or his head. I couldn't see, I couldn't get him loose. Mom, I yelled, even though I knew she wasn't there. I tried to lay him down again, but he was so tangled, part of him was still up in the air. He started to cry. Wait, Ryan, I'll get you out. But I couldn't. Finally, holding him with my left arm, I climbed onto the side of the crib. My right hand followed the string up to the mobile, way up to the hook. I yanked it loose, and then the whole thing came crashing down on top of us as I jumped backward off the crib. The plastic butterfly was poking me, was poking Ryan too, but I didn't care. The tornado was close and I knew it. Both of my ears had popped and I had this crazy fear that those drains that sucking like monsters now would get us if the storm didn't. Arthur was at the bottom of the stairs waiting. Thank God he'd found the flashlight. I jumped the last half light to the floor. Hurry, I screamed. I swung into the doorway of the bathroom with Arthur right behind me. We crouched under the towel rack. Shine it here on Ryan, I gasped. He's caught in this thing. By now, Ryan was kicking and screaming, and his eyes were big in the light. Once we got the mess of strings free of Ryan's sweaty nightshirt, Arthur kicked the mobile against the wall by the toilet. I have to go home, he cried. They won't go to the basement. Mama never goes to the basement. The beam of light bounced around the blackness of the bathroom as Arthur scrambled to his feet, but I grabbed and held on to him. You can't go. It's here. Can't you feel it? You can't go anywhere. Just then the siren quit again as I pulled him back down and threw my leg over him. The flashlight clattered to the floor and rolled away from us. We heard it next. The lull. The deadliest quiet ever. One that makes you think you might explode. The heat in that room built until I couldn't catch my breath. Then I began to hear noises. A chair scraping across the kitchen floor upstairs. Your mom's back, Arthur said, pushing at my leg. But I knew it wasn't my mother pushing the chair. The noises got worse. It seemed as if every piece of furniture was moving around up there. Big, heavy things smashing into one another. A window popped. Crash! And then another. Glass shattering everywhere right next to us in the laundry room. I pulled a towel down over Ryan and held him tight. If he was still crying, I didn't know it because I was feeling the sucking this time. It was like something was trying to lift my body right off the floor. Arthur felt it too. Mother of God! He crossed himself. We're gonna die! 10 seconds more and that howling, shrieking tornado was upon us. The blanket! I screamed at Arthur's ear. He pulled it down from the countertop and we covered ourselves, our hands shaking wildly. I wasn't worrying about my mom then, or my dad, or Mrs. Smiley. Just us, Ryan and Arthur and me, huddled together there on the floor. The roaring had started somewhere to the east and then came bearing down on us like 100 freight trains. Only that twister didn't move on. It stationed itself right overhead, making the loudest noise I've ever heard, whining worse than any jet. There was a tremendous crack, and I felt the wall shudder behind us. I knew then that our house was being ripped apart. Suddenly, chunks of the ceiling were falling on our heads. We're gonna be buried, was all I could think. At that moment, as plain as anything above the deafening roar, I heard my dad's voice. The shower is the safest place. I didn't question hearing it. Holding Ryan against me with one arm, I began crawling toward the shower stall. I reached back and yanked at Arthur's shirt. Somehow we got inside with the blanket, and then another explosion. And the glass shower door shattered all over the bathroom floor. We pulled the blanket over our heads, and I began to pray. Out loud, though I couldn't hear my own voice. God help us, God help us. I said it over and over, into Ryan's damp hair, my lips moving against his head. I knew Arthur was praying too, jammed there into my side. I could feel Ryan's heart beating through his undershirt against mine. My heart was thanking God for making me go back for him, but not in those words. Outside those places where our bodies touched, there was nothing but terror as the roar of that tornado went on and on and on. I thought the world was coming to an end, had come to an end, and so would we, any minute. Then I felt Ryan's fat fingers close around one of mine. He pulled my hand to his mouth and started sucking on my finger. It made me cry. The tears ran down my cheeks and onto his head. With the whole world blowing to pieces around us, Ryan took my hand and made me feel better. Afterward, neither Arthur nor I was able to say how long we huddled there in that basement shower. A tornado's forward speed is generally 30 to 50 miles an hour, the meteorologists have told us. Our tornado's forward speed was 0. It parked right there on Sand Crane Drive. 5 minutes or 10, we couldn't tell, but it seemed like an hour. Roaring and humming and shrieking, that twister was right on top of us. I'll never be that scared again as long as I live, and neither will Arthur. When at last the noise began to let up, Arthur jerked out from under the blanket, leaned across me to the opening of the shower and vomited into the broken glass and sheetrock. The glow from the half-buried flashlight showed his head bobbing again and again. Squeamish as I am about something like that, I wasn't revolted. I wondered if I had wet my pants myself. I couldn't tell for sure because water had started rising under us in the shower. My shoes and my jeans were both soaked. I had to move Ryan, who was wiggling to be put down, way up on my shoulder. Arthur, I said, my voice shaking but thinking to encourage him, we made it. We're alive. I looked away as he heaved again. Arthur was still doubled over the sheetrock mess when the hail began. Once it got going, it hit us with the force of a buckshot. That fast, I knew the kitchen upstairs was gone, floor and all. Those marble-sized hailstones were pouring in from somewhere. I thought of Mom's new sewing machine and my bike. It didn't take long for Arthur to crawl back beside me, but even under the blanket, those hailstones hurt like crazy, smacking our heads and our shoulders. We huddled together to protect Ryan, who was down in my lap again. Suddenly, I was hit with a sickness worse than Arthur's. Mom, where was she? Did she make it to Smiley's? Arthur, I cried, sitting straight up. My mom! My whole family, he choked out. In that second, I could see my mother's car hurling through the air, see it ripping opening, the black funnel sucking her out and swirling her away. I could hear her scream. I started crying. She can't be dead. She can't be. I hit my head against the tile to make the picture stop. Shut up, Arthur said. Just shut up, will you? He pulled away so we weren't touching and drew himself onto the opposite corner of the shower. I didn't care. I felt as if someone had reached down my throat and turned me inside out. Another terrifying thought slammed into my head. What if we are the only ones alive? Just the three of us out of 38,000 people, an entire city gone, bodies strewn all the way out to the river. Chills raced up my arms. I was shaking all over. At least, I scrambled for something to hang on to. At least I still have my dad. He would be safe, wouldn't he? Out there on the farm? With a rush, I thought of everyone else. Stacy and Angelique, not even a year old, and all the Darlingtons in between. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, have mercy on us all. I heard Arthur's prayer above the ripping and the rattling of the storm and knew he wasn't thinking of himself. I clenched my teeth to keep from going to pieces. Please, God, please, I begged, make everyone okay. Overhead, the storm continued to rage. The sharp sound of hail striking tile went on, and I began to wonder if we might just be battered to death. Now and then a finger of wind reached into our hiding place, flipping the blanket until we'd anchored it under us again. I shuddered and pulled up my knees, shifting the baby once more. With the temperature dropping and the water rising, we couldn't stay in the shower stall forever. What were we going to do? Only Ryan had recovered enough to be himself and was dabbling one hand in the water, making happy noises. Once I got him into a standing position against my knees, he began talking and stretching under the blanket tent. He wasn't worried. I wiped my tears on the back of his undershirt. What does he know, I thought for a second, wishing I could trade places with him. He won't even remember this night. As Ryan bunched up on my lap to jump, I took hold of his hands to steady him. I made little balls of his fist and felt how small they were inside my big 12-year-old hands. Suddenly it occurred to me that I had saved his life. Me. I had done that. I warmed myself on that thought as I rubbed my cheek against his head. He was so little. As he bounced and gurgled, I could see why Mom liked him so much. That's when I remembered Minerva. My cat! Oh no! Had she followed us downstairs? But a cat would find a place, wouldn't she? To ride out the storm? Cats are smart. They can take care of themselves. She's all right. She's fine. She's fine, I convinced myself, because I couldn't bear to think otherwise. The hard, peppering sounds of the hail were growing slushier and softer. The hail was turning to rain, and quickly I slipped the blanket off my head. My gosh, there was the night sky where the bathroom ceiling had been. I shivered as icy raindrops splattered in my face and went streaking down my neck. Somehow, seeing those was worse than actually knowing. Arthur. I nudged him with my foot. Look up there. He pulled the blanket off and tipped his head back. He sat there, blinking into the rain as the blanket bobbed up and down over Ryan. All right, so that was chapter 9. It's a big chapter. It's got a lot of emotion in it. And with that, we will finish the rest tomorrow.